work session for the Mayor and City Council for the month of April, and have Councilman Ebal lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. It's council is present and accounted for. The first order of business tonight is the public hearing to entertain any questions on our fiscal year 2014 operating budget, known as Ordinance 02013. Anyone have any comments regarding the operating budget? Yes.
Yes, it's public hearing.
This is out of complete ignorance, because fortunately I haven't seen the year where they're going to raise the gasoline tax or the bottle tax or the paper bag tax or some other thing out of Annapolis. I moved here because we don't have those kind of taxes. I'm James Reed. I live at 402 Clubside Drive in Taneytown, Maryland. I'm happy to be here. I've been here 5 years now. God, where does time go when you get, I've been retired 23 years. I'm getting old. You know that? But I can still recognize quality. And you have it here. You have quality in your people. You have quality in the stores. It's a nice place. I really enjoy living, and I've met most of you personally. I don't believe, I've met you before, but it's been a long time ago. And Carl Ebo, I met. And my point is this, and I will look the budget, I will review it. I'm an accounting man, I'm an accounting guy. I saw in today's paper that Fannie Mae made an $18 billion profit for the government. Or they're not really a government agency, but they are. They made $18 million. They waited till the last line to say, well, by the way, they still owe the American taxpayer $180 billion. Now, if you owe somebody $180 million and you made $18 billion today and you owed it to me, I'm telling you, I want that $18 billion. Just a point. You're increasing the water rates for us here, and while it may not be a tax, I guess my whole point is, I've been on a fixed income for 23 years. I have not had a raise in 23 years. I've lived strictly on what I've saved. The company I work for is the world's largest insurance company. There are no more health benefits. They cut that away from me. That's 21 years into retirement. They said no more. They have cut retirement benefits for all my children. I've got 3 children that work with State Farm. They don't have any more retirement benefits and no more health benefits. What I'm trying to say is they're squeezing that nickel till the buffalo does whatever it has to do. And all the companies are doing that. So it's making it tough. It's making it tough on y'all. But what I'm trying to say is everything keeps going up. Taxes bother me. Fees bother me. Investments bother me. All these things. And I have every faith in this council that they'll do the right thing. But it just to let you know, I'm not the only person in the community that's concerned and goes by the gas station. I went by all the gas stations. This is crazy, I know. But I went by all the gas stations in Taneytown, and they're at 375, 372, 369 or something. I bought gas in the state of Virginia as soon as I crossed the line, $3.36 a gallon. This is what I'm saying. The squeeze is coming, and what I probably like the most about Taneytown is the fact that most of the people are folks. You really relate to them because the way they're growing up and what they're doing, as hard as they're working in the grocery stores. I grew up in the grocery business and several other businesses that all failed during the Depression. I'm a child of the Depression, and I see these kids and everybody with good manners, and everybody's working hard. And I just don't know how much more of a burden it can take. I know you have to go up, I guess, with the water because of the, I think the MDE had something to do with that, didn't it? Yeah, we fought them too in Walkersville before I came up here. So anyway, it's just a simple plea from me to make sure, please, look at everything that's there. And if it's anything that's there that can help the average folks on the street, because they haven't got time, I'm sure, to come here because like me, they're working 2 and 3 jobs. They may be working 2 part-time jobs. And I'm very lucky to, if I die tomorrow, so what? But I did just want to bring it up, that I care about you, I care about the budget, and I care about Taneytown. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak.
Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
You know, it's a very hard thing to sit here as a council and each year evaluate the services we render and how we're going to pay for them. And I think the council and the staff did a yeoman's job this year in being able to hold the tax rate at the same level as it did last year. The water and sewer aspect of the budget is kind of separate. It's an enterprise fund. It's something that has to be flush on its own, I guess, not to use a pun, but water and sewer. The reason for the water and sewer increases are manifold. We enacted these increases about a year ago, maybe a little longer than that. And we enacted them over a gradual period of time, so it wouldn't be a large impact all at once. Phase 1 occurred last year, phase 2 this year, and we'll have a couple more phases to come. But this was in order to pay for some requirements passed down to us from the state of Maryland through the Department of Energy. BNR removal, no?
Environment.
Okay, Department of Environment, okay. And it also resulted in removing a $30 surcharge per quarter that we had applied to everybody. And this $30 service charge was instituted about 10 years ago when we completed our water and wastewater treatment plant as an agreement we had with the state at that time to service our debt. I know that since we instituted that $30 per quarter per individual, per family, per residence, there's been a lot of concern and consternation about why should we pay this? If I'm a single person living at home, I got to pay $30, and the person's got 5 kids and has to pay $30. So we decided to roll that $30 fee into the fee, and that's part of the reason for that. It's not a pleasant thing, nothing we want to do, but it's simply required to do in order to make that enterprise fund balance. And that's unfortunate, but everybody needs water and sewer, and that's how we have to pay for it. But I appreciate your comments.
A number of years ago, we raised the water rates significantly. And that was done because previous years you hadn't raised them. And in order to meet the expenses, it was a significant jump. It appears like you didn't learn too much from that because you hadn't given your employees a raise for a number of years, and now you had to jump them up 5%, which was a pretty good jump, even though they deserve it. But it seemed like you didn't learn from the
Well, it simply was the result of the economy over the past 5 years that just, I mean, we were faced with the decision of either raising taxes or passing on the increases. And we're expecting a little bit of growth this year in the budget and in revenues. And we felt that it might be a time to be able to address the situation with the employees, and that's why we did that. But previous years, it was just a,
Mr. Reed mentioned about his lack of health care coverage now. I know ours is significant, goes up every year. And the question I have is, does your employees put anything towards your health care?
they do contribute.
They do. Okay.
This is something that, during our budget discussions, we spent a lot of time talking about, and we are doing considerable investigation to see how we might prevent further increases next year or reduce the increases that we do see. So we're looking at other options.
Thank you.
One comment, the mayor mentioned that the $30 fee, he used as an example, 2 families. The example I like to use is a family in industry. We're paying at the same rate. That's not happening anymore. McDonald's is paying their fair share. You're not covering, all the industry's paying their fair share now. Not just you or me or any
Based on
family.
usage rather than
Right.
numbers.
Something to consider at a future time, as a suggestion, is these health savings accounts, or YSAs they call them, or HSAs, where the company will pay you like $3,000. I'll give you a check for $3,000. You go on the marketplace and you buy the best, you buy whatever health insurance you want to buy. Trust me, it doesn't cover it, but it's not included in the pay, so it's not taxable. So there's some advantages to health savings accounts that you might want to look into putting more. For me personally, I profited by State Farm doing what they did because I found out how much they were overcharging me. And I worked for them.
We actually did institute a health savings plan 2 years ago, and we were able to reduce our premiums tremendously. We have a high deductible for the employees, and premiums on the health care.
Health savings accounts work.
Yes. Mhm.
I will leave the public hearing open for another, at least, maybe to another half an hour anyway, till 8:15. And if anybody else comes, they can offer comments, or if you think of anything else, you may offer comments.
Hello?
But we'll move on with the agenda.
Another.
I'm sorry.
I'm not opposed to the raises in the water rate right now. I understand that there'll be 2 or 3 more, and that at the end of it, it will be double. What I'm opposed to is, it sounds like to me that for infinity after that, it's gonna be raised 5% every year. And that's higher than the cost of living right now. I think at the end of this 3-year, whatever it is, when it's double, that should be the end of any raises or anything, and you have a new hearing and start over and see where the economy is there and where your budget is, instead of this 5% forever and ever.
Well, I agree with that, and the increases are planned to meet a certain goal. And again, the enterprise fund that controls the water and sewer is not a profit-making entity. It's just required to break even. So we have to make sure that we control expenses as well as charge enough for our services that we render. We're not allowed by law to run deficits in that fund. We can't take money from the general fund and put it into that fund, for example, or we can't take funds from the water and sewer fund and put it in the general fund. So it has to be kept separately. Has to stand on its own.
If we can avoid unfunded mandates, in the future, we'll be okay. if they come back out and say you've got to do umpty-ump, and they don't send money with it, you know, where's it gonna come from? It's coming from the rates. And
Yeah.
theoretically, it's all to help the environment in the bay. Keep the bay clean.
You're dealing with the MDE, I've had that experience. If you're dealing with the MDE, just be careful and be harsh. Because they're going to be that way with you.
Oh, absolutely.
As an elected official, I've had a representative from MDE come up to me and say, what are you gonna vote against it for, Jim? This is a done deal. Let me tell you, somebody politically connected tells me something's a done deal, you might as well put a bomb on my chair. I said, don't you speak to me now, I'm giving up on this, and it's gonna die. And you know what? It died. She made me so mad I ran for public office.
Any other comments on the budget for this time? Move into the approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the minutes of March 11th or the closed meeting for March 11th?
Just one typo, Stumptown Road Properties, you left the O off for Jay's name.
He's a gall now.
He's not a Gaul.
No,
Okay.
more like a fish.
Can swim, he can't fly.
I see a little bit of gills coming out of there.
That's all I have.
Any other additions, corrections? All right. Monday, we'll have for adoption a resolution 2013-04, the water allocations for the month of May 1st. And we'll also have for adoption our fiscal year operating budget. Anybody on council have any comments on the operating budget? Move on to the city manager's report.
Well, not much this time, since most of my time was away. I made the trip out to Colorado to catch that snowstorm, so. Update, fiber optics, the fiber is here. They have actually installed the equipment in the building here as far as receiving it. The installation is also completed at the police department. We have got cable fiber that's running through across the street, it's 24. We still haven't got it out to the other end of the city yet, but that's coming.
Is it at the police department, at the fire department?
I don't know. Last I heard on that, the fire department did not want to run that fiber into that box that we put.
Right, yeah,
So that's where it's been left.
okay.
Antrim mini storage basically holds the same. The water towers, we've got the bid.
Henry, hold on.
Yes.
Can we have this meeting in order?
Thank you. Basically, the bids are in, but we're holding them off on any award because we want to take a look at our money very closely. 194 construction is complete. I just talked to Rick today, and currently we're the next in line to get the overlay completed. State Highway's got a construction down on Route 97 at the time. As soon as that one's done, they'll be here to finish this one off. So that's going to be, well, we're already in April. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to scratch that out now as of today's date and make it May. So I was expecting it to be done this month, but as of today, current information says it won't be. The Well 17, we're proceeding with the electricity. The poles are, the right-of-way has been taken care of with the county and the state, and they will be putting those poles in very shortly. Sells Mill, that's completed. The creamery, we're still waiting back to hear if we've got that grant. The employee manual, we're still working on that. We're not finished that as yet. Nothing's changed in the other ones with the grants for the Maryland Energy and the MDE grants, the 4 MDE grants that we put in for. What's not on here, and I want to talk to you about, is number one is today we received and signed an official retirement for Officer Schreck. He will be out of service as of June 18th. Is his last day. He's retiring on disability. The other thing is that Bob Flickinger came in and he said that he may not be able to do the mulching this year. Basically, he said, well, he's getting to be 80 years old. He's not sure he really wants to do that. But if he does, what he says is he would like to be compensated for his gasoline that he uses, which, I don't know why that would be the case, since our guys should be going out there with him. So I don't know what that's, I told him he's gonna have to get back to me to let me know, and I told him I would bring this to you, whether you're gonna authorize some money for his expenses in gasoline.
Is this something we could do with our crew, or would we have to hire this out?
We would do the same thing that's done, that he does. Basically, what he does is he gets a crew of the kids that need service hours, and he goes out on a Saturday with them, and it would be just, we'd have to do that. Bob Mitchell would do that. He's Parks and Rec, so he would be just taking his place, that's all.
All right, so I guess we consider,
I mean, it'll still get done. It's just a matter, who does
I mean,
it.
it's something that needs to be done. And-
Right.
And what I'm saying, what my point was, is if we have to go out and contract somebody to do that work, then we may offer,
No, we don't do that.
compensate
We won't,
Bob
we
in
wouldn't,
some
we
way.
won't, we wouldn't need to do that because, even in the past, the work is volunteer. And the kids are working service hours towards their high school needs. So what we do is we purchase the mulch, and we just deliver the mulch to the locations the kids put it on, so,
Would we have to pay Bob overtime,
no,
like on Saturday or something?
no.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So we would still use the kids?
Yeah, we still use the same, everything would be the same,
Instead of
except
supervising,
that
it
Bob
would-
wouldn't.
It would
Instead
still
of
be
Bob
cheaper for him to do it than for our guys to go down and pay them an hourly time to do it.
Right.
Reimburse Bob for his
Bob who?
expenses.
Which Bob we talking about?
Flickinger. Didn't you say Bob Flickinger?
No, I'm talking about Bob Mitchell. Bob
But if
Mitchell
we
would do
gave
the
Bob
work with Bob
So
Flickinger.
what we're talking about.
I understand, but if Bob Flickinger did it and we reimbursed him
For the gas.
for the gas, it would still be cheaper for him to do it with the volunteer kids than to pay our guys to go down and do it.
I
Probably.
understand.
Yeah.
But in that case, it still would be a net zero because Bob would do the work and he'd just
We're
take
not paying
comp
Mitchell
time
any more
off.
than than he is making right now. The only,
His time could be devoted to something else is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
no,
Well-
so they,
I don't even know if he's going to do it.
I
That's
understand.
I told him that I would bring this up tonight.
no, so be thinking about that, because one of these
I've
times,
already
we're
talked
gonna have
to,
that question asked.
I've already talked to Bob Mitchell, and I basically told Bob to proceed with this as if Bob's not going to do it. So he's in the process of getting the kids together like we've done in the past, ordering the mulch like we've done in the past. We'll use our own truck, and the difference is instead of Bob's truck, we'll use our truck. You know?
It's being done on a Saturday, right?
Most likely, it won't happen until the end of June, school's out. It might be during a weekday, I don't even know.
I've seen him working those kids
Right.
through the week already.
Well, maybe, then the net would be zero on that, really, for sure. So I just want to let you know that that was what I talked to him about. But it's not clear to me whether he is or he isn't. So I basically told Bob Mitchell to proceed as if he's not, because I don't want to not be prepared, and then Bob says he's decided he's not going to do it. So. The only other thing I've got tonight, and this is a report that comes out of our work order system. And what I want you to kind of take a look at is, this is from January 1st up until now. This is the number of hours that are being reported and categorized by the type of work that's being done. And what I want you to take a note on is we're going to have to make a little bit of adjustments to this. But basically, the first one there on the far left says preventive, and the one towards the other end says inspection. And typically, they're one and the same. What's happening is that that this comes with the package, and then they started using it. So when you combine the two of them, you can see we're spending a tremendous amount of effort into the preventive inspection portion of this thing, which is really great, because preventive maintenance should be a 3-to-1 ratio, as far as 3 hours for every 1 hour of correction. And you can see the corrective maintenance there, it's really, when you add it together, it's very reflective of that. We're going to have to fine tune this a little bit, but this is what we have accumulated since the beginning of the year. And I think it's really working well. Everybody's very much into it. It's going to be a little bit more time until we fine tune all this, and then we'll start to be able to do some analysis of the data even further. But this, I thought I'd just show you.
You think you're capturing all the data?
I'm sorry?
You're capturing all the data at this point?
No, and there's, this represents, I've calculated it out, this represents 20% of the labor hours, which when you first start up a system, that's not bad, that's still pretty good. So I didn't do it, this is from the first of the year to now. I don't know, I didn't do it month by month to see if we're progressing, but still, I think it's really good. Any questions?
Interesting.
If not, that's all I have for my
Yeah,
report.
just, what types of thing fall under other?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not, other is any of the ones that are not listed there. So I don't know what that they're doing. We have to, again, dig into that and see if we can figure out where to stick that stuff.
Any questions for Henry on anything?
Is damage in any way correlated to corrective?
No.
What's the difference?
Damage could be by weather, vandalism, and that, in those categories where,
Yeah, I understand what damage is, but how does it relate?
well, that's what I'm saying.
Corrective.
That's what, it's a form of corrective, yes.
Okay,
It's a form of corrective, but it's letting you know it's not corrective in the sense,
so obviously more goes into corrective
yes.
because that damage number is much lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions for Henry? Any questions on the departmental reports?
Let me see.
All right, I'm moving into the legal report. Okay.
You have the pending projects report, and I'm not going to highlight them all. I'll highlight a couple of them that you might want a little detail on. Item 5, the Antrim mini storage. As you know, the new part of the Antrim mini storage, the arrangements we negotiated with them that there had to be some fixes before we would entertain anything new, and we're doing both at the same time. We've negotiated the public works agreement, we figured out what the bonding needs to be. We're going 2 extra steps that we normally wouldn't take. We are going to hold a bond for the lighting, the new lighting, okay, the lighting that you don't see out there, the lighting that's on the buildings that you don't see out there. So that's unusual because it's interior lighting, but given the problems we've had in the past, we now have some leverage to make sure that they're done right. So we do learn from our mistakes. The extra step we're also taking is the landscaping. You remember that we have our own landscaping bond for the landscaping between the Carol Vista properties and Antrim Mini Storage. The rest of the landscaping is bonded usually through the county and inspected through the county and released through the county. But we're taking an extra step which actually helps the developer, that we will hold the bond for landscaping. The county will still do their inspection, but we're gonna hold the money. So that way the rest of the landscaping on the property also comes under our letter of credit and our public works agreement. So it helps them out because they only have to do one bond, and it helps us out because we can control the release of that money then. So we're working towards having the documents ready to be signed as soon as they complete the retrofit of the existing lights. And they're working towards that, is my understanding. I don't think they've completed it, and there's issues, I mean, that come up with why. But they are making it progress, and for our point of view, it doesn't matter, we're not signing the new agreement until that's done. So everybody's on the right page, everybody's moving in the same direction for the first time in quite a long time with this. So that's a success. The Dollar General, number 7, is also a success. You're gonna talk about the Public Works Agreement later, but I might as well just lay it out now, and I won't have to talk later. You know, we use a standard Public Works Agreement that's basically general, and then we cookie cutter what we need for each project. This one is a little different. We've tried to have the attitude that we want to be business friendly, we want to encourage things to happen, but we don't want the citizens of Taneytown to suffer because of it. And the only odd thing about this project is usually the owner posts a bond for the work. I mean, we do that all the time. Well, the owner didn't want to post a bond. He wanted the contractor, the person who was building the project, to do it. And I wouldn't approve that. That didn't make it past me. So the Public Works Agreement was changed so that it's a joint bond between the owner and the contractor. And from our perspective, now we have more people to hold responsible. So it's not going to be standard practice, but if you actually did read the agreement, you'd see that there's 3 parties at the top. That's unusual, and we don't want to do that anymore, but it'll work here for us. They're going to take 45 days to build the thing, and it's all going to be over, so it's not a big risk in the long run. So that's completed. I have the signed agreements. Hopefully we will vote on it, the mayor will sign it, and I already have the bonds, so they've been pretty good to work with. All we're talking about is development, which is a good thing because we've never had development in the last 3 years. So number 10 then, if you jump down to the Flying Colors of Success, that is a project, as you see, that stalled in 2005. They stalled because they were a 4-lot subdivision and we weren't allowed to subdivide under the consent order with MDE because we didn't have any water. And so they just kind of sat vacant, dormant. That was it. They want to redo that. They want to start over again. So we had a progress meeting with them last week and basically said that they need to get final approval by the end of April. Because if they don't get final approval by the end of April, they will fall under the new stormwater management regulations. Because they have the ability to be grandfathered if they do this. If they don't have the ability to. They believe they can meet the deadlines because there's not that many changes. We're going to give them the Public Works Agreement. So now it comes down to the Planning Commission at the end of this month. If the Planning Commission feels that everything is as it was in 2005 and they're okay to do it, then it'll happen. If the Planning Commission balks and says that they're not okay with it, then it's basically a redesign of the project to deal with stormwater. And the project is out by like the Windy Hills area, that's right in that area. So that's Flying Colors of Success. So we've had 3 development projects that look like they're going to be ready to go and be under construction. I've also heard from Meads Crossing. I think I crossed over that, but I just talked to the principals of Meads Crossing, and they really would like to start breaking ground this summer. They're that serious about trying to get things happening. And the indicators for all these developers, they all point back to the Creekside development. Okay, so I guess that's like the canary in the coal mine. Creekside is selling. Creekside has 33 units under contract or 20 units. They have a significant amount of units, And they see that as the market coming back, and so they're willing to invest now to pull their plans and do it. So we need to keep Creekside hassle-free at this point in time. And there's some issues, as we know, with the right-of-ways and things like that, but that shouldn't impact the building out there. That's just more of the, we gotta work this out before they're all done issues. And then on the second page, number 14, the well 10, the city manager talked briefly about it, and the well 10 issue, contamination issue, the treatment of it is getting, the closer we get to it to figure out what's involved, or is more involved than we all anticipated in dollar-wise. It just basically is. And it's causing us to recalculate what we might need to do, whether we need to do it, how we can afford to do it. I mean, and it's just a big piece in the whole puzzle, which is why we're kind of vague, because it's no point in throwing out our thoughts. We want to throw out the final analysis for you. And to get the final analysis, we're going to meet with MDE next Monday to talk to them about what they perceive our options are about well 10 and the impacts of doing it, not doing it, and things like that. And that's on the heels of the next item, number 15, which is the financial checkup to confirm all the presumptions that were made. We talked a lot about water and sewer rates. They were presumptions made on those. The revenues would be so much, the expenditures would be so much, and we're into like year 3 of a 5-year plan. And as you heard from the comments, they would like that reviewed at the end of 5 years. Well, we're reviewing it now to make sure all the presumptions are correct, because if they're not, we don't want to continue down the road and find ourselves really wrong down the road. We think we'll have a report done by mid-May. I mean, that's our target date, which is why you see in the other reports how some bids have been put off till June. We're not going to accept anything or obligate the city until we're pretty clear on what the financial picture is and be able to explain it to you. And those are the big ones. Those are the big things that we've been doing this month. And if you have any questions on anything else or stuff that's not on here, happy to answer it.
Questions for Jay?
Jay, could you give me a quick update on 4, 3 and 4?
Okay, to be candid with the Creekside Wilson Avenue dispute, and you're all familiar with what I'm talking about, the property between the Tevis property, which is the garage, and the other one, we really haven't had any further information provided. The dispute among the property owners about who has the right to go across that property where they have a right-of-way has not been resolved, because what's being proposed, and this is not officially proposed, meaning they're telling me what they want to do and I don't make decisions, so we're having a meeting this month to talk about it. They would just say that, well, they'll remove that sidewalk and they'll put the driveway back, and now the property owner has his right-of-way back and life is good. Except for, we didn't get what we were supposed to get now. We didn't get the sidewalk, and we don't have the nice grass strip, and we don't have a lot of the things that we, the city, wanted. And we have a gravel driveway that goes onto our nice streetscape to an area that's congested already, that I'm not sure State Highway or we would be happy with that. Not that we could stop it, but it might have to be more than just your gravel driveway. That might have been good 30 years ago. So I know that the developer, now this is not the home builder, the developer of the land is who we're dealing with here, is scheduled to meet with us because they were sold from a company in California to a company in North Carolina, and they want to come meet with us and talk about their ideas for a proposal. There's not really many ways you can skin this cat. I mean, it's a sidewalk there or there's no sidewalk there. But we're going to meet with them this month. We're having a planning meeting this week to talk about what we think we might say, and then we're going to meet with them at the end of the month. This isn't a huge crisis issue at this point in time, because we have we have $1.4 million in bonding that Lennar Homes wants back. So while we still have that, we still have the ability to make some decisions.
Now, just for a little bit more clarification, the sidewalk we're talking about, there's a current existing sidewalk that goes down to Baltimore Street. You remember that?
The long one.
The long one? Okay, there's one on, it's between the house and Tevis property. There's a sidewalk where they're gonna put the monument and stuff like that. That's there. Their proposal was to tear that out, okay? And the sidewalk that everybody's talking about not putting in is the one that goes from Break Iron and it goes behind CVS.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's, I just want to make sure that you understand that they're talking about the sidewalk that goes behind here, which they've agreed to do, which is, it's not us that we can do anything about it, nor you. It's planning and zoning, it's gotta go back to them.
And there may be another sidewalk issue, which is on the 140 side too.
Oh, yeah,
Same
I think
thing,
so, yeah.
And these aren't official. I mean, we're not making any decisions because they really haven't heard, but this is what we're gonna be approached with. And there's probably ways to deal with this. And the bottom line is, this issue has gone on for so long, not recently, but years past where nobody did anything about it, that it's time to roll up the sleeves and figure out how to solve the problem. If we need another access from 140, is that possible? Maybe it's in everybody's best interest to have that. But right now, nobody wants to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
It's the baby that nobody wants to take care of, and all of a sudden it's the city's problem.
And there's the mysterious Wilson Avenue.
Right.
The Wilson Avenue that did exist, that doesn't exist, that has two properties with the address on, one of which we own, the tower. That has a Wilson Avenue address, but there's no Wilson Avenue anymore. It's like, how do you get your mail? I think the post
Does it
office
show
knows
in the
where they
comp
are, and it's just
plan?
taken there.
Yeah, the problem is we're trying to let them solve their own problems. Remember I said we always like to be out of the middle, and we're always in it. That if they can solve their own problems in a way that's acceptable to us, that's great. It doesn't cost any time or effort or any capital. If they get to the point where the housing subdivision is starting to get complete and they start wanting reductions of their letters of credit, then we're gonna start mandating what has to happen. And we haven't done that yet because there's no need to be anything but nice right now. But eventually we'll have to do that if it's nice. So that's number 3. Number 4 is just it's a minor subdivision. The Remsburg property is on Trevanion Road. It's the field before you, kind of across from the road that goes through the subdivision on the other side. That makes sense. Anyway, they came in and just wanted to separate the existing house from the property, from the big field. And that makes sense. A lot of people doing that so they could sell the field if they wanted to and keep the house themselves. And so that got approved by the Planning Commission. It went through the process. And we, again, learned from our mistakes that in the past, the city has never gotten right-of-ways for sidewalks. Remember the barn down here, remember the sidewalks out to Trevanion Road. Okay, well, we're learning from our mistakes so that when you come in and you want to do something along a public street, one of the things you're going to have to do is give us an easement for a sidewalk. You don't have to put the sidewalk in, because we have other ways of making that happen later if we want, because there's no point in putting a sidewalk across one piece of property if it's not connectable, but at least the city has the option at the future. So that kind of became the standard now over the last 2 months, and so I'm working with their attorney because the other mistake that has been made constantly in the past, again, we learned from our mistakes. Remember the stormwater issue out near the middle school, where on the plat it had the right-of-ways, but we never have any deeds. Nobody ever transferred them to us. So now we make sure before we sign off that it's not only on the plat saying there's gonna be a right-of-way, here's 10 feet or whatever, but we actually get the text deed signed by the property owner and it's recorded so that we own it. And since that's happened, there's another one that's pending, and I don't really recall the name, but it's down by the bowling alley. And it's the same deal where we're gonna want a right-of-way, even if it's impossible to build a sidewalk. We want one because maybe down the road we might want it. So that's that.
So all they're doing is subdividing. They don't have plans for houses or,
Nope, just it's an imaginary line. It's going to look exactly like it is.
And that's just the home from the field,
Yeah,
because they're not gonna subdivide the field.
not
Not at this time.
Not right. And that's what we told. So if you're looking at it, it's the house on the left.
Yeah.
And we were able to push this through because we know that when you do something with the field, somebody somewhere, we're going to get another bite at the apple and be able to deal with sidewalks there and all sorts of things. So
Anyone else?
thank you.
okay.
I had a comment or question, I guess. The issue with the land behind the elementary school that was going to auction that we had talked about, I guess it was last work session. Has anything happened with that?
I know what you're talking about, and I know that the city manager has been in contact with them to try to work out an arrangement. And, you know, we probably shouldn't discuss the details of an offer and things like that. It's not finalized, it's been discussed, but it's still in the works, I guess.
Next, we had also discussed in past times the ability to provide a lien on a property that was was a zoning or ordinance infraction. And I get an indication that you're working on that toward the end of the report there. Is there any progress there?
Well, to give, I mean, tell me how much detail you want to get into. There's two ways to do this, and this is why at the staff level, we haven't come to an understanding of exactly the best way. That we can enforce a lien on a property. Let's say there's a violation, a continuous violation. We can't, the lien doesn't make us clean it up. The lien doesn't give us the ability to do things to it. It just means that we're gonna get our money back eventually. And the eventually that we've always been using in the past was when the property goes to sale, when it transfers, because they have to get a lien release from the city, and the city just won't sign it until it's paid. And so that's how we get paid. And that's the fail-safe version. That's what we always do. The thought is we want to collect these outstanding liens as unpaid taxes, because then it doesn't sit on a piece of property for however many years till it changes hands. It's every year. It's the ledger's zeroed, basically. So at the time of the year, which is, you know, coming up around this time of year, the county will ask, are there any outstanding taxes or fees that are due for properties? And then we can submit them a list, and then they're the ones you see listed in the paper. And if you don't pay them, it goes to tax sale. And it's a much more powerful tool for us. The problem that we have is one of, not necessarily the code. I mean, we always want to go back and change the code. And the problem is the enforcement of it, because if you're collecting it as taxes, they have to be violations that are related to the property. Right? I mean, you can't really say that I'm going to have a messy yard and I'm going to lien the property for taxes if it's not related to the property. So a weed problem, a house that's in ill repair problem, those are real estate issues. You can lien those, tax those, that's not a problem. But vehicles that don't have tags, you can't lien the property for that, since that's not related to real estate. That makes sense. So that dispute, it's not a dispute, but that dilemma is where we're solved right now. Whether do we need to change the code, can we do this? And it comes down to working with the county. And that's going to be the easiest one, is to try to work with the county. We want to just get paid sooner. That's the story.
And that's really the problem there, is it's not that we have not been, quote, enforcing. We've issued lots of citations, and you've seen Jim's report. Problem is getting the money.
Okay. We will always get paid.
Again, I know that's the problem. That's what we've addressed in the past. We're trying to find a solution to that problem, and that's what I was asking. Have we
That's what
found
we're
that
doing.
yet?
We're trying to find that
I mean,
solution.
we always get paid, right? Because we're the government. It's like the IRS. We never go away. So
Well, with the lien mechanism, I mean, you're right. The property can't transfer without they having the lien paid, but they also can't borrow money against it or anything else. So it's
Well,
better than nothing, a lot better than nothing.
Well, the misconception that we seem to have when we talk about this in the abstract is that we're going to go get a lien. I'm going to go to the courthouse and file a lien. That means I got to sue these people, go to trial, I got to win, and then I file the lien. So it's a cost benefit of how much effort and time in money, but also in, if I'm doing that, I'm not doing something else. Do you want to have to recover a $100 violation? Or is it better to say the easy way is we're going to go through and put it on the account, we're going to do it where there's no admin cost on our side. Good money
That's the
after
way to
bad.
do
I
it.
guess.
That's the way to do it if we can do it.
Right.
Question, I also had a question on Dollar General and the Public Works Agreement. Are we going to talk about that separately, or have we already talked about it?
We can talk about it in more detail if you want. when-
I just had two quick things. I noticed that the term was a 2-year term. Is that twice as long as it usually is? I thought it was a 12-month term is what our normal public works agreement was.
We've expanded the terms because we wanted to expand the surety amount. So normally they gave us a 12-month or a 1-year letter of credit. And then we said, well, then your agreement has to be done in 1 year. And we have found that then we have to keep track of that letter of credit, but 12 months is really not a long time for us, that it expires and we spend so much time trying to get a new one that we say, all right, we're going to give you a give and take. We'll give you 2 years to finish the project, but we want 2 years on the letter of credit. And that way, it gives them a lot of flexibility to finish. Our fees are paid up front, so we're already paid in full. And why we really, I mean, in the end, we want to see people succeed. We want to see the tax base grows. But the negatives is, if they stopped tomorrow, do we really care? As long as they stop the grading, we stabilize the site, I mean, it doesn't look like a mess out there, in other words. And we feel that 2 years is the way it works. With residential, they're longer than that. We've given them 5 years and 7 years, we've given them longer terms. And then their letters of credit have to be renewed automatically.
The other issue concerned, and again, I've looked over the Public Works Agreement, I'm not saying I've memorized it. Have we addressed the impingement of lights from that property to their neighbors, similar to what we've been talking about with the Lantern mini stores?
In the Public Works Agreement, it's not addressed, but the Public Works Agreement is linked to the plans that were approved, and the plans that were approved, the lighting plan was scrutinized, meaning that Antrim Mini Storage 1, let's call it the first, the lighting plan, there was no lighting plan. Then we learned we're gonna have lighting plans, and we're gonna scrutinize those. And that new procedure is in place now. So to say whether it's gonna cause a problem, I don't know, but the plans were scrutinized to say that it shouldn't cause a problem. And the Planning Commission, Mayor Pro Tem was there, I mean, they ask about that. What's the lighting plan look like?
Anything else for Jay? Very well, I will,
Jay, one thing, on streets and roads was intentionally deleted. Is that because it doesn't apply in the Public Works Agreement?
Right, it doesn't apply.
Okay.
On page 7 of the PWA,
Okay?
item 9J,
Yep,
missed something?
Oh, yeah,
A
what is
descriptor?
it?
it's just blank, yes.
Yeah. that's-
It probably should have an NA in there, is the reason, but, yeah, that's the cookie cutter approach, and so there was no NA listed in there. I don't know what was in there before, it could have been almost anything. What has to be bonded for this site is the storm drains, so we talk at the top. There's really no roads, because there are no public roads. Storm drains have to be bonded, stormwater management, so that's B, C, D has to be done. E is done, F and G are done, because that's storm, water and sewer. H is through the county, but we're holding that from now on. And the sidewalks, they're putting in a sidewalk along Antrim Boulevard, so I is done. And then the rest of them are not anymore, because there's J, all the rest are like for subdivisions. So recreational facilities, driveway aprons, signage, street lights, there's none of those types of things.
No signage?
No public signage. I mean, they have their sign,
There's,
but
but not stop signs?
they put it up wrong. Their problem, so no stop signs, things like that.
Okay.
all right. Anything else for Jay? I guess I will, ask one more time, anybody have any further comments on our budget? If not, we'll close the public hearing and thank those who contributed to the conversation. Next is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business for this evening? Hearing none, we move into new business. Monthly financial reports. Anybody have any questions on the monthly financial report?
There was a paper clip in mine. Look on page, was it 9? We have the percent total budget remaining.
Okay, on page 9,
Yeah.
okay.
Was that paper clipped intentionally? Because that whole section was clipped together.
Because your public works, the public works
The
agreement.
public
Yeah,
works
that's what it
agreement
was.
was paperclip.
Separately from that financial report, so you would know where that started.
Well, mine was on that.
Oh, did you?
I was wondering, why do we have that whole thing? Now, my only comment on that was, don't do like the federal government does, you gotta spend it or you lose it. Okay?
Well, in this, and I haven't seen it here yet, but one of the things that I've asked Linda to do as well is every month, all the departments get a report on their expenditures. And one of the things I've asked her to include is the mayor and council's to be distributed to all of you, so you can see it much as it's department. And is it in here, Linda?
Well, actually, the financial report, that you see the budget report, your department is listed separately, mayor and council, every month, you get to see that. What I can do as well is send you the detail, email you the detail.
Well, that's-
Put it as part of the report.
That's what I-
actually the numbers are every
That's
month.
what you want.
That's what I asked for, because that's we, as department heads, get each month too. And that way you can see the detail.
Good.
Any other questions?
So we owe that to them Monday.
I still get scared with those first two sheets.
All right, any further questions on the financial report? Any questions on the accounts payable? And hearing none, moving to the Dollar General store. I guess we've talked that one to death. Any further comments on the Dollar General store? Other, do we have any news about sheets? I mean, I see them tearing down the car wash. Does that mean they're getting ready to start or what?
They, I can give you what I know, which is not anything lately. They were given a draft of the Public Works Agreement, and that's where it's left. We haven't negotiated any changes to it, so assuming they'd say that would be great, we still don't have the construction estimates, so all the stuff that has to be bonded has not ever even been discussed or reviewed. And that has to happen before we can set the letter of credit amount and review that form, so that hasn't happened. And so they're not, they're close, but it's not imminent, so.
They
and I
have
don't know
been
what the
planning
holdup
and
is.
zoning for quite a while.
Right. And the question that we have is, they have all their approvals, but the demolition of the car wash, you'll have to talk to the code enforcement officer, but we were under the impression they needed some type of demolition permit for that.
Is that why it stopped?
I know it was, when it was discussed, the code enforcement officer was, oh, I'll have to check on that. So it wasn't like he said, oh, I signed one or I knew about it, so I don't know the details, but that's my understanding, yeah.
Because they had equipment there and now it's all gone.
all
There's-
gone.
It's no activity whatsoever.
Did they demolish or sell the equipment?
I think they
Guess
sold,
they can catch you on that one.
they sold the equipment to
That's what I
somebody, and I
That's
don't
what I
remember. I
understand.
did hear about that, but I don't remember who.
But the holdup's completely on their end. We're waiting for them.
Question that Henry and I were discussing, the existing store is a non-conforming zoning spot. And we were talking about maybe shortening that time to allow someone to reconstruct a similar facility there from 12 months to something less. Is that something we need to be talking about? We probably, I mean, it's gonna happen if we, if we don't.
We talked about this in theory years ago, when we first talked about Sheets. Because Sheets doesn't own the building, Sheets is a tenant in this building. And so the question always was, do you want that type of use in your area? Because if they keep it, within 12 months, they could lease it to another gas station or a Wawa or whatever, I mean. So there is this idea of grandfathering. We all think that if it's grandfathered, you just can't do anything about it. That is not the case. We can pass ordinances that would get rid of non-conforming uses regardless of whether or not they were still in operation. For example, let's say we didn't want Sheets there anymore. You could pass an ordinance, if you so wanted to, that would give them a period of time to cease and move operations, and that would be it. We don't have that because it's very draconian, but we could do that. And I have a file folder on it. It was just never something that anybody expressed interest to. Primarily because I'm assuring the property owner is gonna come back saying, it's set up for a gas station, I spent all this money on a gas station, I really wanna keep it a gas station. And how would you react to that? Would you say, too bad?
Well, again, that's something we probably should be thinking about.
It's-
The rule, the ordinance now says they have 12 months to redevelop the property for the same use in a non-conforming zoning. Is that correct?
Now,
So if we wanted to prevent that from happening, we would shorten that time?
yes,
Or get rid of that use altogether?
Upon,
Not allow them to redevelop?
Saying that this use, once it ceases, can never start again.
right,
Right.
that's what I would,
I
Okay.
mean,
I would like
that
that.
type of
That
I
sounds
agree with
better.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's ways to do that, you just have to, we gotta do it. I mean, it's all zoning, so it requires, like, the 3-step process. You do it, the planning commission gets it, you get it back, so it's not an instant thing.
We might
One
want
of
to
the
start
things-
working on that then. Yeah, if it takes that long, because they are gonna leave,
it wouldn't,
100%, yeah.
yeah.
it
Or
wouldn't,
the owner, I would want to develop it
just-
as it was.
just because they have a gasoline situation there today does not mean that it automatically would have to go to it. And it automatically doesn't go to the property owner, as that's saying, because one of the things that the property owner wants is a clean bill of his land from the MDE. So they're gonna have to remove all the tanks to make sure all the soil is clean before that goes back. Because, and Sheets wants that just as well, because if not, something happens in the future, they would be responsible. They'd be drug into it. So when they pull stakes out, they're pulling tanks, they're pulling everything to make sure that that land is just the way it was when they got it, before they put tanks in.
And that's how you end it.
And that's
If-
how
if
you-
that's what you wanted, I mean, and the problem is always, I mean, when we talked about this before, it was, in theory, we can do it, what do you want to do? Not, do I want to end it? What do you want it to be? Because it's not going to be a house. I mean, what is it? And that got into a lot of discussions that never really went anywhere.
what is the conforming use of that property?
General
Do you
business.
know?
I think it's general business. Yeah. I mean, I think that property, and then there's like a dentist office or something next
Right.
to it, and then the zone changes right there.
Right. Because at one point in time, I know the bank was considering buying that land that was going all the way out where before Sheets ever came here, and that's many years ago. And they didn't do that. Then they went into this expansion and wished they did, so.
So the owner could refurbish the building and use it for a conforming use, he wouldn't have to.
They may even have to demolish it, unless they find some.
Yeah, no, I mean,
One story.
but they would
type
have that
situation.
option.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it's how you handle it, because I would think that you're gonna figure out what you wanna do, and then you're gonna open communications with the owner saying, just so you know, this is what we're doing, and this is how we think it's gonna play out, so that it's not adversarial at the last minute. I mean,
Has anybody reached out to the owner and asked the owner what his intentions are after Sheets leaves?
Not to my knowledge.
No, we haven't
Would that
done
be a
that.
good idea?
I mean, your economic development person
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something, I mean, yeah. Yeah.
That probably something I'll put on the list.
But you should think about, I mean,
Well-
at a minimum, 4 to 5 months to get this zoning thing done from the time you say do it,
I mean,
if there's no problems.
I have visions of it sitting vacant like that corner at Angler Road down in Westminster did for the last 15 years or however long it's been.
Right.
Time goes fast for him.
Talking about sheets, I know you don't like, shouldn't probably get involved in private enterprise, but Sheets gas is always as much as 20 cents higher here in Taneytown than other places. I don't know whether you can find out why that is. If they can't be more fair to the people in Taneytown, then I wouldn't be too favorable for what they want to do.
Well,
You know, we are a very captive audience here.
you know,
And if you want cheaper gas, you can get cheaper gas by going to Westminster. But it's gonna cost you just about the same amount of money you would save in that trip. So they know that.
That's why they're not being fair.
That, well, that is fair. That's called the free enterprise system.
it's, you know, having some experience in the petroleum industry, that what dictates the price of gas is competition, number one. And number two is volume. I mean, the ability to deliver gas and turn it. The quicker it turns, the cheaper it is. More gas you sell, the less you can sell it for. And places like Westminster and south toward Baltimore, east toward Baltimore, where there's more population, can generate more customers. So, you know, you would think that it would be cheaper based on that theory. And also the fact that, well, most gas stations nowadays, everybody can take a tanker load. I mean, transport takes 8,000 gallons, and if you can't take an 8,000 gallon tanker load, that would boost the price too. If you were bringing in split loads, for example, that would beat the price. But I don't think any modern gas station is in that category. Used to, when you had the mom and pop
Most
stores,
of them all
used to
have
have
10,000 gallon tanks
or
now
something,
anyway.
but, you know, that's not an issue anymore, but it's supply and demand.
It is. I can tell you, I just returned from Colorado, and the prices in Colorado are much cheaper than they are here. Why would, and believe me, they have to transport every ounce of that to Colorado, and they've got the pipelines that come up this way. One would think that it would be more expensive there. It's not.
Go to Frederick. If Frederick's higher than it is in
Oh,
Donington.
gosh, yeah.
Well, pretty soon people are
Oh, yeah?
going to Pennsylvania anyhow.
Yeah.
That's right. Nobody's gonna be buying gas in Maryland after a while.
Yeah,
anyhow.
the state tax goes
Not
in.
making any difference. Don't tell Sheets that.
As long as we keep making excuses for these racketeers, I guess they'll continue to do what they're doing.
Well, people keep going to them.
Well, you know, how much do you want government to get into price fixing? Well, I don't think we want that. I don't think that's a different form of government.
I think, Carl, you said it best. I mean, people are still buying gas there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
to some people, it must not be
24 hour- yeah,
too
24
much because they wouldn't go there to buy.
24 hours a day, that place has got people hanging around in there.
And in between the three places, you can't find a penny difference.
Yeah,
One goes
Exxon's
up-
is bad.
Yeah.
One goes up, the other one goes up. I mean, they stay right in that 1 cent margin.
And even when Sheets offers their discount, it's the same as Exxon across the street.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Exxon's doing it too.
Well, we won't solve that problem tonight.
Not ever.
Just driving up to Mechanicsburg on 15, there's a Shell station that was, maybe 7, 8 miles from Dillsburg. That was always 25, 30 cents a gallon more than when you got to Dillsburg. That Shell station is not only closed,
Yeah.
the pumps are gone. I mean, it just took everything out. He couldn't do it charging that much. And he was all by himself.
It's gonna get worse before it gets better. My prediction. Any other new business? Council member.
One question. The incentive ordinance that we did for repairs, I think I would like you guys to look at it. I'm being led to believe that it's only applicable if a contractor does the work. I don't think,
I think that's true.
but I don't think that should be true. Because if somebody's willing to put the labor in, then we should be at least willing to look at the cost of the material. Not the person's labor, okay? But at least the cost of the material.
Then the only problem with that I see, and I don't have a problem with making the adjustments, just to point out, is that there's a dollar figure threshold that you would even qualify for. So if you did charge, you'd have to have tremendous amounts of material
Well,
to even get to the dollar value.
that's up to the people, you know, rather than have them say I didn't apply because I did the work myself. And there was no real contract between me and a builder.
But I think
I think
you,
they should be given
I
the
think
option.
what you know, I will throw this out for thought. If that's what you want to do, then I would also put in there a cost
Material.
for material. If that's what you're looking at, I mean, I can see how that would be, because ours is right now, it's just labor and material, which means you've got to go out and get somebody to do the work for you.
And I don't think that's fair to the person who
Well,
can do it themselves.
but again, understand, because of that dollar threshold, if you did that without adjusting the money, you'd still have a very similar problem. They'd have to build a whole house before they qualify, almost. So I forget what the threshold is.
I wrote that so long ago, but I'll have the answer on Monday.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But there is a ratio between the material versus the labor cost. And we could do exactly what you're saying.
I get your answer? Then we'll find out what to do.
Okay, thanks.
All right, council member reports. Rick?
Yes, I do. Last year about this time, the police held their first junior detective academy, and they're going to have another one coming up. It's going to be renamed, though, to Law Enforcement Education Program. And the first session is April 22nd, then it'll be April the 30th. The third session is tentatively scheduled for May the 7th, and the last one is May the 13th. The sessions will start from 7 and end at 8:30, and they're hopefully to get a maximum of 20 participants. They will be covering traffic enforcement, criminal arrest procedures, crime scene evidence, and SWAT.
What's the name of this thing again?
It's gonna be called the Law Enforcement Education Program instead of Junior Detective Academy. Junior Detective Academy kind of signifies that it's all kind of detective type stuff, but this is kind of a multi-topic class.
Sounds good.
What's the age?
7th and 8th graders.
7th and 8th?
Last year it was all 8th graders. This year they're opening it up to 7th graders to try and get 20 participants.
Good. Jackie?
I think we discussed everything in planning and zoning.
Yeah?
Yeah,
We weren't on planning and zoning,
yeah, you did, so I don't have anything.
Diane?
Nothing.
Carl?
Really, nothing tonight.
Nothing?
I don't really have anything either, other than the governor was at the LC meeting last week that I lost my appetite after I listened to him, but that's, other than that. You can put that in the paper, I don't care.
You don't have to.
On the phone, put it on the TV, I don't care. I think you can't tax anything more, it's already been taxed.
Oh, don't worry, he'll find
He'll
a way.
invent something.
Yeah.
Anything else?
He'll find something to tax.
Is there a motion to, yes, sir?
I've been asked every week about the graffiti that's
Oh,
What's
yes.
the story about that?
I'm glad you brought that up. I would like to ask that question myself.
And we answered this question once before.
And they were gonna be cleaned up when the
No, no
project
one
was
ever said
over.
that. No one ever said that. What they're there for is they're there for the engineering gradient marks to do 194 of the project. Now, maybe we can, when it's all said and done, we can come out and do a power wash and see if we can get it off. That's about the extent of that graffiti.
They put some acetone in it to make it work, I guess. It really looks bad. I mean, it really is.
Who's not disappointed about spending the money to get new sidewalks and have, the state?
I was under the impression that that was to be cleaned up when this project was over, and the project will be over when the road's paved. That was the impression that I was under.
Who left you with that one? Who left you with that impression?
I think when we brought it up originally, that's what was said.
No.
No. Well, at least I got a witness.
That's what I heard.
They kind of got carried away with that marking on 140, they did.
I know. As soon as we get a little warm weather, because right now, if we do that, it's probably freeze. Record low expected again.
Well,
tonight.
that could, but it's something we need to have again on the list, punch list, or whatever it is we do with the state highway when we sign off on the project.
I will get that with Rick.
Yeah.
Graffiti,
But you meant real graffiti.
that's what I thought too.
Well, it kind of looks like real
Good word
graffiti.
for it.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So,
Favor say aye. Okay.
Aye.